What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you've got a VAG, VW, Audi, Seat, Skoda, a little bit like what's behind, with the 1.6 or the 2 litre common rail TDI, and the injector clamp bolt has pulled the thread out of the head, this is the video for you. We're also going to be tackling the injector seals. Let's get straight into it and see what we've got going on. So this is the 1.6 common rail and is the CAY engine code. We did have injectors 3 and 4 that had popped up, and I have got a stud and a nut in there, but it was in the dark and I want to do a nicer job, so we're going to strip the rocker cover off, make sure the thread is tapped all the way to the bottom. They're usually an M6. That looked like that one, but that thread is completely pulled out, so we're going to tap it out to an M8, put a nice strong stud in there. It should never happen again. I've never taken the top of one of these apart, I don't believe, I can't remember. So firstly, I'm going to get this black pipe out of the way. Then I am going to get this fuel return line out the way, unbolt it, unhook this, and we'll pull that away. Then it looks like a case of the wiring loom, unclip the 4 injectors, unclip the EGR valve, pull that wiring away. Then we're going to get the fuel rail, the 4 injector lines off, and then we're going to get onto the rocker cover. This plastic pipe, by the looks of it, it's a squeeze clip. Pull that right out the way. We're going to do that, get the rocker cover off, and have a look, see what's inside. Right, so when taking your injectors out, it's easier to have the engine nice and hot. If possible, have your engine really hot. I know if your injectors are popped up, then that's not possible, but it made getting the injectors out a lot easier. My way of doing it, I had a 13 socket over the top of that with an extension bar, and then I got a lever bar just under here resting on the fuel rail. You can't lever off the rocker cover because you'll crack it. The fuel rail lives along here, so I had my lever bar perched on that under the injector, whilst the 13mm turning the injector left to right, slight lever, popped, easy. Now this is the stud in question. You can see I've already threaded it, and they are normally an M6, and that one's a bit ropey, so I've got a new one coming for the left hand side. I've got an 80mm M8 stud. That is there. It's going to be a lot stronger than the original, so it won't ever happen again if you do it right. And I ordered an 80mm stud, and if I screw that in, it is nice. I have hoovered and blown out in there, and while I was tapping, I've got tissue everywhere. There's tissue under tissue. I don't want any bits to go inside, so I've made sure to have the Henry out. Old Henners has been loving the metal filings, and what we need to do, this shaft lives in the rocker cover and that stops the oil from leaking out. That's why we've got the same size shaft on the original bolt. Now when I offer this up, you can almost see I need to take the thread down a bit further. A bit of a pain in the backside, but I need to tap or die the thread down a bit more. Then I'm going to use one of these barrel nuts. You order them off eBay. I ordered that off eBay. I'll put links to both in the description. And the barrel nut, I'm going to ever so slightly ball the end off, because if you look in the top of the clamps, and by the way, the injectors ain't coded, so you could mix them up, but I will put mine back in. Can you see that slightly domed? So I will be putting a slight dome on the bottom of my barrel nut, so it can slide about and do what it's intended to do. While they're all out, I'm going to replace all the seals, all the copper washers. I need to quickly take this down to the machinist to get the thread taken down a bit. So while he's doing that, I'm going to take all the tissue out, get all the copper washers out, clean all the injector seats, and I'll get you back when it's assembly time. But that is a fix. It's either that or you've got to replace the cylinder head. And this probably costs about 30 quid repair. A lot easier and cheaper to do it this way. Now we're on to the injector seals, and if you look in, mine are nice and clean, my seats. I haven't got the proper tool today, so I've used a flathead screwdriver some tissue on a flathead, a bit of cleaner, bit of WD-40 or GT85. And while you're trying to get the copper washers off, and I tell you, I have never seen some copper washers in such poor condition. They are really bad, they're really thin. At first I thought there wasn't any on there, but what you do, I gave just these ends a little bit of wire wheeling on the grinder. Don't wire wheel that bit, because there's tiny little holes in there, you don't want to disturb them. So I wire wheeled it close to the end. That then showed me the washer, and they are really squashed on there tight. So I've got a little blade, any sort of razor blade will do. I've got it just behind the seal. I then tapped it with a hammer and 2 hands, slightly worked around it, spun the injector, tapped the blade behind the other side, that moved it. I then gave it a little tap off with a flathead screwdriver. Easy enough. You can do it with a rocker cover on the injector seals, but I've got a lot more access with a rocker cover off, and it weren't too many bolts, so it's down to you. All the bits are turned up and I'm ready to go. So I got a new one of these, and it is a tighter hole. So if you have chuffing of these, oil on your rocker cover, get a new set of these. I got them from TPS, and now trade parts for VW Audi. If you haven't got a TPS near you, just ring your main dealer. They're about £8 each. These weren't leaking, that one had a split, so I've replaced it. I am going to reuse the rocker cover gasket. It's still intact. Rather than putting any mastic on it, I use weld seal. So I'll be using that on the rocker cover gasket, and that'll be fine. So they are the copper washers that come from main dealer. Now, there's not a very big seating area, so I'm going to use the thicker ones. Well, they're not thicker, they're just bigger. They're the same thickness. I'm going to use those. I did get 4 new O-rings. They go on this part of the injector. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on them, put the O-rings in, and it should be sweet. I have also got a new fuel return line, as that one was cable tied in for some reason. Rocker covers on, all bolted down, well sealed the gasket. We're happy it's not going to leak. Now, if you're watching this for the head stud conversion, as you've got a pulled bolt, then stick around. But if you are just here for injector seals, I have put the O-rings on, nice and easy, and we've got the copper washers on. I'm going to grease these up just a little bit so they slip in nicely, but I'm going to get straight back to the head stud. There's the stud, and if we remember, it had a short thread. Can we focus? Yeah, we had a short thread. I've taken it down another 25mm just so no shank sticks out the top of the clamp, because otherwise then it's a waste of time. I'm going to get some thread lock on this, and I'm going to wind it in, and I'm going to get it seated nice and tight, and then we're going to put it all back together and see how it sits. So there's my stud in, and we've got some thread lock, and that is why we have a shanked part of the stud, because that seals on that part of the rocker cover gasket. Now there's plenty of thread for the clamp to sit over and bolt down onto. The other side is still standard, and we've got a new bolt for that. If you're changing your injector washers, make sure you change both bolts. Injectors are in and torqued up. I'm happy that they're not going to come out again, happy that that one's not going to pop out, and if that one goes in the future, I'll just do the same, because that is solid. You see the little return clips? Before you go any further, put your return clips back on, because you can push the return lines in with the clips in, but you can't take them out. So get them in now before you get any further and drop them trying to do it. Now let's fit in reverse, and hopefully all is well. A little DTE tip: once you've had the injectors out, that is the fuel inlet. If any dirt, even one little piece of dirt, has managed to get in there, we don't want to be replacing injectors if we don't need to. So just a little pump, WD-40, GT85 in all 4, then put your fuel lines on. So we're all back together. One little tip on the oil return, the little push-in ones, I did put a little bit of oil and I tapped them in just slightly. As it's the common rail engine, it should self-bleed itself. So Just going to wang it over. It should go within 10 seconds. I'm going to put the booster on because it's a bit flat. Let's see how it starts. If you have got a stud issue, then I do feel for you. But if you follow the guide, you should be all right. Oh yeah. I lost a bit of footage from yesterday, so you might notice it's a bit cleaner under there, as that's what I've done after we put it back together. I let it warm up to temperature and I took it for a couple of mile drive, and we've got no leaks at all. It's absolutely bone dry under there and it sounds good, so we are happy with that. We're all done on that one. Wasn't too bad. As I say, if you've got a pulled out thread or a snap bolt, it's not the end of the world. M8 stud, savable. If you want to see more on the Golf, because I have bought it spares repairs, I do plan to do some paintwork and a few other bits, and we're going to resell it on and see how much money we can make. From me and the Golf, I'll see you in the next one, guys, and on this one, I'm out.